What's up, guys? It is the fourth week of our Ecclesiastes study called What's This Life For? And we are finally getting over into chapter 2. We're going to read the first 12 verses today. And if you want to turn over there, you can. As we turn over there, I wanted to just kind of talk through a couple of things as we lead into this. Matt Chandler says we all subscribe to the philosophy that what we think will satisfy us is more of what we already have. We used to beg for things that we now have, things that we now take for granted, and now we think we need more. We think we need better, the new iPhone, the new car, the new house, the new job, a promotion, a new relationship, something more. Our whole lives are like this. We're looking for something else. We're looking for something more. Nothing ultimately is going to satisfy. And Solomon moves here from talking about living or pursuing wisdom to just this reckless abandon, chasing all the stuff this world has to offer. His conclusion, as it always is that it's meaningless in the end. When we accumulate more, we're still not happy. And in Ecclesiastes chapter 2, Solomon tries to expose this philosophy for the garbage that it really is. We see that those people who have it all and their lives blow up huge or whatever are not happy. And we think, well, it'll be different if it's me. I can handle it better than them. I won't crash and burn like them. But Solomon exposes the emptiness of the American dream. If we stop and look at all the big names who are hollow and empty in the way that they live their life, we'd realize how right he is here in Ecclesiastes 2. He says basically, I outdid everyone and it was still all meaningless. Here's what he says. I said to myself, go ahead, I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy what is good, but it turned out to be futile. I said about laughter, it is madness. About pleasure, what does this accomplish? I explored with my mind the pool of wine on my body, my mind still guiding me with wisdom and how to grasp folly until I could see what is good for people to do under heaven during the few days of their lives. I increased my achievements. I built houses, planted vineyards for myself, made gardens and parks for myself, planted every kind of tree with every kind of fruit tree in them. I constructed reservoirs for myself from which to irrigate a grove of flourishing trees. I acquired male and female servants and had slaves who were born in my house. I owned livestock, large herds and flocks, more than all who were before me in Jerusalem. I also amassed silver and gold for myself from the treasure of kings and provinces. I gathered male and female singers for myself and many concubines, the delights of men. So I became great and surpassed all who were before me. My wisdom also remained with me. All that my eyes desired, I did not deny them. I did not refuse myself any pleasure, for I took pleasure in all my struggles. When I considered all that I had accomplished and what I had labored to achieve, I found everything to be futile in a pursuit of the wind. There was nothing to be gained under the sun. So we're going to talk about the vanity of self-indulgence, of just chasing after all these things for ourselves. He turned first to pleasures. And in turning to pleasures, he found that it was meaningless. He turns to hedonism, just grab it all, get all you can, while you can, grab it all, take it all, that kind of thing. A lot of people in our life or in our society, turn to things like this, turn to pleasure, turn for ultimate meaning or distraction or whatever. And the things that he's talking about here, these pleasures, make it look like we're going to be happy, but we won't. And it's a temporary thing. Solomon lived larger and bigger and greater than we could ever imagine, than any of us could ever imagine. And he said it was futile. The pleasures of life are brief, and you can't bottle these pleasures. Every experience comes to an end at some point, and then we go back to reality. We seek pleasure in relationships, in clothes, in houses, in cars, in laughter, in entertainment, in relationships, in projects, and so much more. And Solomon tries all of these for nothing. Then he turned to laughter, and he said that was pointless. We all love to laugh. We all love funny stuff on YouTube and sharing memes and all that kind of stuff. Those things can distract us momentarily from the pain, but they can't cure it and they can't overcome it. Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian, said this: we look for little islands of relief in a painful existence. So he turned to laughter, and it was pointless. He turned to alcohol, but it was hopeless. Like so many in our society that fill bars from 5 o'clock on most nights, they turn to alcohol to cope, they turn to alcohol to numb. Solomon did the same. It was an empty pursuit then, and it still is today. The Bible condemns drunkenness, and we can see how it can be a killer. We see examples of it all the time. Those hilarious beer commercials that we laugh at, they don't show the rest of the story. The person hanging over the toilet at 2 a.m. in a house that's trashed and he's wasted and everybody's gone, or the relationships that are destroyed. It doesn't take away the pain. It often only adds more pain. He turned to alcohol, but it was hopeless. Then he tried to build heaven on earth, but he found that was worthless. He built things. He built the temple. He built a palace that was even larger than the temple. It took 13 years to complete. He built houses and shrines for his family. He had the equivalent of the lake house, the beach house, the condo, entire cities, you name it. He planted vineyards, gardens, parks, an irrigation system to water all of it. He tried, in a sense, to get back to Eden, to get back to paradise. He would have been the number one person on MTV's Cribs. He would have been the number one person on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. He had maids, he had chefs, he had landscapers, he had stylists, he had tailors, he had people to do everything for him. He also had herds of flocks and animals. He had more than anyone had had before. He had insane amounts of silver and gold, all the money you could ask for, military conquest, fame, the arts, women for sexual pleasure, and so much more. He had 700 wives and 300 concubines. He had 1,000 women that were actually his. He outdid anyone and everyone, but like many people today, he came away empty and disappointed. He got everything he desired, anything he desired, but it was still hollow. He says he literally denied himself nothing. He took what he wanted. You name it, he had it. And it all left him empty, and it all left him broken. He outdid anything we could ever do. He had more, better than any one of us will ever have. And at the end of this, he says, no, you can keep accumulating more, but it's not going to matter. Answer this. How would you fill in this blank? I will be happy when, fill in the blank. Listen to Solomon when he says it's dangerous. It won't work. It'll never satisfy. Because whatever you put in that blank, unless it's Jesus, is not going to make you happy. It's not going to make you satisfied. You may get what you think you wanted, but when you get it, you'll find out that you didn't really want it. Pleasure is a good thing till it's turned into a God thing, and then it becomes an enslaving thing. It was still hollow for Solomon. Ultimately, he got no satisfaction. Why did he get no satisfaction? A couple of reasons. First, the human heart is selfish, but the heart of Christ is selfless. Jesus contrasts the human heart and its selfishness and its chasing after stuff for me, with self-denial, with self-sacrifice, with doing for others. The heart set on Christ thinks of God first, thinks of others to help them, and pushes itself to the background. The human heart is selfish, but the heart of Christ is selfless. It also gives no satisfaction because the things of this world will never gratify. We think, why shouldn't we just fill up and grab all we can because we only go around once anyway, right? And in so doing that, we tend to put eternity on the back burner. We tend to do life as we want. We tend to have no thought beyond this life. I talked earlier in this series about the bumper sticker, he who has the most toys wins. He who has the most toys still dies. I mentioned that. He who has the most toys also has the biggest headaches. It all just goes to rot. It goes to waste. It's going to go away at some point. Someone once said this: the two happiest days of a man's life are the day he buys his boat and the day he sells it. Here's the third reason that none of this stuff gives satisfaction. What we value shows where our hearts belong. In Matthew 6, Jesus said, where your treasure is, there's your heart. When we chase after earth, it's eventually going to fade, it's eventually going to crack, it's eventually going to rust, it's eventually going to get broken, it's eventually going to aid. When we set our gaze on the things that are eternal, however, those things will last forever. What we value shows where our hearts are, shows if Christ is at the center. Are we setting our eyes, our gaze on Christ or on the things of this world? Are we chasing after those things, or are we chasing after him? Solomon had buildings. He had houses, he had vineyards, he had gardens, he had orchards, he had pools, he had comedy, he had food and drink, he had palaces and servants and women and so much more, but he had no fullness. He built a legacy for himself, chasing individualism, trying to earn his own ticket, but it didn't bring lasting meaning. There was a study done on happiness in 25 countries. What nations would you have guessed had the happiest citizens? I bet you wouldn't say that number one would be Nigeria, or that would be followed in order by Mexico, Venezuela, El Salvador, and Puerto Rico as the top 5. The U.S. was only 16th out of 25, and Australia and Great Britain were even lower at 20th and 24th. And they concluded this: survey after survey shown that the desire for material goods, which is increased hand in hand with average income and what everybody thinks they want, is a happiness suppressant. It won't satisfy. It's as if Solomon here is saying, I had it all, but what I sought was never in my grasp, and it won't be for us either. Don't go chasing those things. You won't get the satisfaction you seek.